Good morning, students. This video is on Imtiaz Dharker's poem Choice. Imtiaz Dharker is a person with independent and unconventional ideas. In her writings, she expresses her resentment against the injustice, constant discrimination, and violence against women. She demonstrates the sufferings, pain, and anguish of the other half of the world in her poems. Today, I am going to discuss her very famous poem, Choice. The title of the poem is quite noteworthy. The word choice suggests the opportunity or privilege of choosing freely, or in other words, right to choose. Or we can also say that the word choice is indicative of the freedom to decide. This poem speaks of the power of choice and how much everyday choices affect ourselves and our offsprings. It also explores the struggle for freedom, hope, social change, and feminine sensibility. This poem also talks about the intrinsic roots of identity. In this poem, Imtiaz Dharker sees mothers and children in their traditional social contexts and expresses her tenderness and love and concern for children and their future well-being. The poem is in 3 parts or sections, and each section consists of 2 stanzas. So, the first section of the poem is like this. I may raise my child in this man's house or that man's love. Warm her on this one's smile, wean her to that one's wit. Praise or blame at a chosen moment in a considered way. Say yes or no, true, false, tomorrow, not today. Finally, who will she when the choices are made, when the choosers are dead, and of the men I love, the teeth are left chattering with me underground? Just the sum of me and this or that other. Who can she be but helplessly herself? This stanza or section of the poem deals with the rebellion of a woman who tries to escape with her own child her mother's fate. Initially, the woman is comparing 2 men. She has to choose between money and love, to choose between love marriage and arranged marriage. Then further, she says that she has to decide for her child also, and she's a daughter. At times, she praises her daughter, or sometimes even blames her. She can give her consent to do something, or she can also deny. Consider something as true or false. Allow her to do something, or restrict her. And in this way, her fatal maternal attitude restricts the freedom of choice to her daughter. Further in the stanza, she describes the time of rebellion as time of choices and possibilities in long interrogative sentences, roaming around without coming to a decision or just ending on a question. The woman questions that Who will she when the choices are made? Here she stands for the daughter of the speaker or that woman. Who will she when the choices are made means who she'll be when the choices are made by the parents, and what will become of her when the choosers are dead. Choosers here are the parents, both father and mother, the woman and her husband. What will happen when they die? She'll be just a replica of me and this or that man. Means she'll be what we forced her to become, because we have decided for her everything till now, denying her every right to choose or decide. And the first section of the poem ends on a question. Who can she be but helplessly herself? Who can she be but helplessly herself? Means that she can be none other than what we made her, what we choose her to become, refusing her freedom to choose her own course of action and her own pattern of living. So, this is the first stanza. Now, let's read the second section of the poem. Someday your head won't find my lap so easily. Trust is a habit you'll soon break. Once, stroking a kitten's head through a haze of fur, I was afraid of my own hand, big and strong and quivering, with the urge to crush. Here, in the next strong curve, the cradling arm, love leads close to violence. Your head, too fragile, child, under a mist of hair. Home is this space in my lap, till the body reforms. Tissues stretch, flesh turns firm. Your kitten bones will harden. Grow away from me till you and I are sure we are both safe. The second section of the poem reveals the close connection of love and destruction, of protection and inhibition in relation between the mother and the child. The second section has lost the vagueness of the first. Now, here the mother says, it consists of descriptions and commentaries on the situation. The mother says that someday when you'll grow up, you have to face this world, and I will not be there to protect you, and you'll find that this world is very cruel and harsh, and realize that people are selfish and ready to betray you. Further in this section, the child is compared to a helpless kitten, and the mother realizes her power over her child and the resulting danger and threat. This means that if parents, especially mothers, remain too much protective for their children and take all the decisions related to them or their lives, they hinder their mental growth. Throughout their lives, such children remain dependent on others' guidance. The love ceiling restricts independent thinking. And in the last two lines of this stanza, the mother expresses her concern for her child and wishes for her to grow independently. She says it's okay for her child to remain secure in her lap till she is very young. But as soon as she grows up, she should prepare herself to face this world. And in this way, she'll be safe in this cruel world, because at right time she'll learn the ways of the world. Thus, we see that in the first two sections of this poem, Imtiaz speaks of herself and her child at the same time. The woman here, the speaker here, she may be the poetess herself, and she conveys the message that you only get a chance to be happy if you are yourself, in spite of the outside influences. Imtiaz reminds us the importance of truly being ourselves. Because even if others, whether they are our parents, our father or mother, what want the best for us, it is our duty to stay true to ourselves. As Shakespeare has also said, to thine own self be true. This means that a person can better judge himself he has done what he should or could have done. So, with this ends the second section of this poem. And now let's see what Imtiaz writes in the third stanza of the poem. I spent years hiding from your face, the weight of your arms, warmth of your breath. Through feverish nights dreaming of you, the watchdogs of virtue and obedience crouched on my chest. Shake them off, I told myself, and did, wallowed in small perversities, celebrated as they came of age, matured to sins. I call this freedom now. Watch the world gavotte luxuriously. Strewed my independence across whole continents of sheets, but turning from the grasp of arms, the rasp of breath, to look through darkened windows at the night. Mother, I find you staring back at me. When did my body agree to wear your face? Now, in the third part, Imtiaz describes the nightmares of guilt and shame following the rebellion. It describes the present state of freedom but ends with the haunting remembrance of the own mother. In the first two sections of the poem, she talks about herself and her daughter. But here in this third part, she talks about herself and her mother. She says, even after an act of liberation, I just quote, shake them off, I told myself, and did. The woman rebelled against the double standards related to morality and shake off the watchdogs of virtue and obedience. But the operation remains the same. She is unable to rescue. Though the woman or the speaker rebel against the patriarchy or the traditional rules set for women, but after the act of rebellion, she asks herself, what am I moving into? She herself is unable to accept the freedom of the Western world as the only correct freedom. Both stanzas of the third part begin with the pronoun I, which seems to underline the found self-assertion. The pronoun I, okay, the found self-assertion and independence. But in the end, mother and I, in the last third line, notice mother and I appear in close connection. The sentence, mother, I find you staring back at me, highlights the failed separation both linguistically as well as visually. Though the woman tried to rebel, to overthrow the traditional values and customs, indulge in disreputable pursuits and calls it freedom, but after this act of rebellion, she felt guilt and shame. Because it's not easy to break the stereotypes, to change one's mindset, to overthrow the crown of morality and female virtue. And this gives rise to self-reproach and feeling of reprobation. Thus, we see that the poem choice develops the possibilities and impossibilities of choice on the psychic level. Imtiaz Dharker's poems describe the difficult task of women and mothers in multi ethnic communities of the diaspora. In this poem, the poet does not provide any answer. It ends on a question: when did my body agree to wear your face? So she is unable to answer. She's not giving any answer. Her poem choice ends with a question. Imtiaz Dharker is conscious of the fact that in the Indian society, many mothers and children will never have the possibility and the luxury of choice because they face and have to cope with life threatening difficulties. Women don't have much freedom of choice. Traditions and customs plays a major role in perpetuating gender inequality by restricting women's freedom of choice. So, this poem is in free verse, students, notice this, but it has an internal rhythm. The consistent style and elegant architecture of the poem, without the ornamentation of too many figures of speech, provides beauty to this poem. That's all. Thank you, students.